Do you want to work for a fast-growing M&A consulting and advisory firm? Then Palmtree is the place to be. Palmtree is a firm that's experienced incredible growth in recent years, even in the midst of the global economic slowdown, and hiring just keeps marching on. If you're currently an employee at a top accounting or advisory firm seeking to break into the M&A industry, or you're a student interested in learning about the M&A lifecycle, consider Palmtree. Join the firm's upward trajectory and help shape the future of M&A advisory. If interested, learn more and apply on the firm's careers page, palmtreellc.com, or you'll find the link in this episode's show notes. Is case interview math tripping you up, or do you consider yourself a non-math person? Then today's podcast is just for you. Hey, welcome back to Strategy Simplified. I'm excited to welcome Eli Gentle to the podcast. Eli is a former McKinsey Engagement Manager and has seen a ton of case interviews, a ton of case math problems, succeeded in them, and he's been on the other side as an interviewer at McKinsey, and he knows a ton about this. And he also identifies as a non-math person, right? Quote unquote. So in today's episode, Eli breaks down case math for non-math people. And more specifically, he breaks down the three types of case math you can expect: the critical four-step process for solving case math, the three levels of insights that interviewers expect you to get to, the two most common math mistakes, and much more. You can work with our coaching staff, Eli included in that, to work on your case math, to work on other parts of the case prep process. Our Black Belt program is the most popular option for coaching, giving you 8 hours of coaching, resume edits, digital curriculum, and a lot more. Links in the show notes to learn more about Black Belt. All right, let's get into the episode.
So let's start with the types of case math that you are going to be asked to do in an interview. So the three types of math, which we're going to cover in just a second, really fall into 6 core mental math operations. And everything that you see here, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, dealing with large numbers and percents, are all going to be things that you have done in 5th or 6th grade math. Now, that sounds pretty easy, but the math never fails to trip folks up in the case interview, and it's for a couple of reasons. One is because it's been a long time since most of us were in 6th grade. And second, we're doing math publicly, right? So you're not doing your homework, in your room in the evening. You're doing it under time pressure and kind of under the gaze of the interviewer. So I just want to start off by saying, there's nothing to be afraid of in terms of the actual functions or operations that you're going to be asked to do. Now, let's look at the different kinds of case math that those math functions are going to fall into. So essentially, you're going to encounter 3 different types of case math. That is verbal math, chart math, and graph math. Verbal math is going to be a situation where you never see anything. You're going to be verbally provided a prompt. You're going to be verbally provided data with which to calculate your answer, and you will have to provide your answer without seeing any visual aids or exhibits. Chart math, which is the second type, is where you will get typically some sort of data table, and you will have to calculate some values in that table. You will have to analyze the insights from that table. Graph math is most often where you will get visuals, right? Visual exhibits. So you might have a Marimekko, you might have a line graph, you might have different types of exhibits that will be also presented to you visually this time, and it'll be up to you to synthesize what you're seeing and perform the required calculations and deliver the insights. Now, the way we recommend you approach this is through a 4-step process. So no matter what type of math you're up against, whether it's chart, verbal chart, or graph, we recommend this process. Step 1, recap. Step 2, structure. Step 3, solve. And step 4, insights. Now, recap is where you actually go over what you are solving for first, and then any additional data. This is going to be recapping the prompt, making sure that you're on the same page as the interviewer, and making sure that you've captured all the data that was given correctly. Then you'll move into step 2, which is structuring. So without taking time to structure, and this is a real trick, forcing yourself to go right into the structuring out loud, you'll pre-explain your approach to solve the problem. And in some cases, you might be missing some critical data that you'll need to reach the answer. And this is where you would ask for that missing data. This should take no more than 2 minutes. Then you'll move into step 3, which is solve, where you'll talk the interviewer through each calculation that you plan on doing, complete the calculation, and sense check your numbers along the way. This step should also take about 2 minutes. Now, folks often ask me, is it okay if I do the calculations offline on my own and then come back and present them to the interviewer? The short answer is no. The reason the answer is no is because by solving out loud as you go, the interviewer actually has an opportunity to catch mistakes as you're working. And this will help you in the long run, because if you do the calculations offline and you come back with an answer that's incorrect, it's going to be pretty tough for the interviewer to know exactly where you went wrong. So by staying vocal and staying verbal throughout the solve process, you're going to be able to get those mistakes caught easier. Then we move to level 4, or step 4, which is our insight. Now, this is where you actually want to provide insight along with the numbers that you've just calculated. This is about a 1-minute step, and the level of insights that you should be getting to are this level 2 to level 3 stage. So level 1 is just what the numbers say. So folks often think that once I've got the number, I'm done with the math, but you're actually only beginning the insight portion of the math. So once you have what the numbers say, you need to place that number into context, right? Is that number smaller than anticipated, larger than anticipated, et cetera? As a result of that number then, level 2, what is one recommendation that you would have for the client? This could be, for instance, entering a new market, canceling plans to roll out a new product, or accelerating a plan for a launch. Then level 3 is, what would you need to do to feel more confident in the recommendation you just gave in level 2, right? Often this is doing more research on a specific assumption, right? Or reconsidering a specific market, or getting more data on something, right? So the idea is that when you deliver your math answer, you should be delivering your insight at all 3 levels. Level 1, what the numbers say. Level 2, recommendation. Level 3, what would you want to look at next?
Strategy Sprint is back. That's right, this week-long virtual consulting project is back November 2nd to 8th. So it's a 1-week consulting experience where you get to serve a real client. You work in a small team, you get mentored and directed by a former McKinsey Bain or BCG consultant, and you just drive some really amazing impact. So why would you join Strategy Sprint? A couple of reasons. So number 1, you get really great experience for your resume that makes you stand out in consulting applications or corporate strategy applications or otherwise. Number 2, you build some amazing skills. And number 3, you get to confirm if consulting is right for you before investing in the entire recruiting process, which can be 3 to 6 months or more. Join Strategy Sprint today at the link in this episode's show notes. Hope to see you on the project.
So before we get into it, I have 2 more slides for you. The first is our 6 rules for case math. Now, the first one here is rule 1, follow a 4-step approach, which is what we just discussed. Rule 2, stay on the air. That means stay speaking. Do not go into a silent work period during the math, despite how tempting it may be to do so. Rule number 3, keep neat notes. You are often asked to refer to something in your notes later, especially in the final recommendation. And it's very important that you can go back through your math and pull out different pieces that are well labeled. Rule number 4, round to the ones place. So rounding in general is going to help you out a lot. And I would also say here, when you are going to round, let the interviewer know that you're planning on rounding or you would like to round, and they will always interject if they would prefer you to divide or multiply out further than that ones place. Rule number 5, set the units first, then do the math. People can easily get confused by starting to do math without having the units set. So for when I say units, I mean, revenue per year or, air conditioners per household. And without those units, it can be very tricky to figure out later what the math was referring to. Rule number 6 is use a set of baseline numbers that you've memorized to simplify your life. What I mean by baseline numbers is the following. So I think most of us probably know that 1/2 equals 50% and a fifth equals 20% and vice versa. Now, most people are probably not aware of 1/6, 1/7, 1/12, and what those correspond to in terms of percentages. I like to tell people to think of this almost as their multiplication table that they've memorized in elementary school. Think of it as your one-pager multiplication table for case math. Now, there's no multiplication on here, but you're just memorizing the correspondence between a fraction and its corresponding percent. This will make your life a lot easier because the two biggest things that trip people up in consulting math are number of zeros or mistakes related to zeros and conversion of fractions to percent and vice versa. And this slide has just about every percentage that you're going to be asked to work with in a case interview.
If you enjoyed this episode with Eli Gentle on case interview math, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps the show get to more listeners. In addition, reach out if you have any questions on case interviews, on resumes, on cover letters, on networking, or anything else. We'd love to help. Our email is team@managementconsulted.com. All right, we'll see you on the next episode soon.